Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another painting video. This time we're gonna paint a medieval city scene, and this painting was very important for me for two reasons. The first reason is that it is quite a bit outside my comfort zone, and that's a good way to improve your skill set. If you're sort of always staying in your comfort zone, then yeah, you can't really progress beyond that. So that's why I took this, and yeah, it was quite difficult for me, and in the end I'm still not entirely happy with it, but that's okay. And it was also a painting on which I was kind of determined to finish it, no matter how lost or defeated I felt during the process. That second reason was especially important to me because I want to dedicate this video to growing patience and perseverance. Because I have a really big problem, and that is the fact that I barely finish any paintings. Most of my paintings are somewhere between very rough sketches or a little bit less of a rough sketch, so a little bit further developed, but not a finished painting by any stretch of the imagination. And a lot of the time, the painting enters the so-called ugly state, and I give up. Or the major forms are blocked out, and I'm like, yeah, it's okay, and I don't spend any time detailing it. So I really wanted to do that for this painting, no matter how even if I didn't really like the end outcome of it, I still wanted to go through that detailing process and make it a decent painting. So the part of the reason that I have that problem is due to my ADD. In my head, I always have tons of ideas for new paintings, for new videos and stuff like that, and it affects my entire life. Every part of my life is affected by that. I'm working on a project and I'm like, oh, I could do that, and then I kind of quickly abandon the project and I'm working on the next one. But then after I work on it a while, I lose interest and I want to go back to the previous project or move on to another project. It's like this really big mess, and I kind of want to structure that to sort of finish a project, move on to the next one, finish a project, move on to the next one. It's going to be a difficult process, but I'm going to try that. The result of this is a lot of unfinished paintings. I think like 90% of my paintings are not finished. So that's kind of sad, because at a certain point you get sort of, you kind of get good at the first part of the painting, blocking out the rough shapes, but on the other hand you're also rushing that stage, because in my head I need to go to the somewhat more detailing stage of a painting, because I know that I kind of skipped that process. So I want to move to that part as quickly as possible to be able to do that. But because I rushed to that part, the piece is not nearly as good as it could be. The composition isn't right, or the design isn't really how I want it to be. And then I also lose interest, because I'm like, this painting sucks, the design is not good, the composition is not good. You know what, let's move on to the next one. And then I'm rushing the next one, which is not getting finished, and then I'm rushing the next one. So I really want to take a step back, do the painting, even if I rush the design phase, still try to do the detailing phase and finish the painting, so that I can learn from it. So yeah, that is kind of me trying to find a solution for something that I've struggled with for at least a decade, probably almost 15 years, or maybe even more. And I don't really have a solution yet, but I think this is part of the solution. Just Sean, try to finish a painting, and then after that, ask myself, what could I have done differently to make this painting better, to make the process quicker or whatever. Because this painting took a really long time. It took, for me at least, I think it took about 7 hours or something, which is totally mind-blowing for me. I think I never worked that long on a painting, and it isn't even that good of a painting, but I really put the work in, and I think that is really, really good. Not necessarily for the result, but for the hours put in. So I know by myself I can do that. I can put 7 hours into a painting. And yeah, I'm rambling a little bit. I made a script kind of, and I I already noticed that I totally went off script already. That's also kind of my ADD, I guess. I come up with new things in my head that I want to add to the script, so I just talk about that. But let's try to go back to the script a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, that's really what I did. I pushed myself to work on this painting again and again and again. And there were a lot of points I was like, it's never gonna work out. This painting is never gonna look good. I don't really know what to add. And then I just kind of forced myself to fire up Photoshop, start detailing a bit. And to be fair, there is still a bit of detailing that can be done, but not, in my opinion, not really to the point where I'm like, it would improve the painting. I think at the core the painting is a little bit flawed, so no matter how much detailing I would do, it would still not end up being a very great painting. But that is okay, because that's also part of the learning process, because I learned from this painting that the early stage is important, and I shouldn't rush that, and I shouldn't skip that early process. And I think part of the reason that I rush the paintings, and I think a lot of people have trouble with that as well, the people who watch videos online, is that we underestimate the time it takes to make a good painting. At least I underestimate the time that it takes to make a good painting. I like to think that I'm a fairly quick painter, but that's also a really big trap for me, because sometimes I get carried away by the speed, and I pay more attention to the speed than the quality of the painting. And I think that the focus needs to lie more on the quality, and the speed will come with it. But sometimes it's better to spend a little bit more time on a thing, and that can save you a lot of time in the end. But part of the reason that I underestimate the time that it takes to make a painting is because of YouTube videos, I think. Almost all the YouTube videos of paintings are sped up, are a time lapse. I mean, even this one is a time lapse, so I'm also creating the trap for you guys. But I'm also telling you now, don't fall into that trap, because I did that, and I still do. I used to watch a lot of Feng Zhu back in the day, the design cinema videos, and they really inspired me to pick up painting, to pick up digital painting. But there are two problems you run into when you, as a sort of a amateur, or yeah, you paint as a hobby, or maybe you want to improve, you want to learn from it. But there are two problems that you run into. The first problem is the video is sped up. It's quite obvious, because otherwise you're gonna watch a long video. So the actual time it takes to make that painting is a lot longer than the video. Plus, the person making that video or that painting is usually a professional, which has done this for a job, many years, a lot of experience. So naturally, he or she is a lot quicker at painting than someone who is just starting out. So you get this double discrepancy when looking at sped up videos made by a professional. It is sped up, so it looks a lot quicker than it really is. Plus, it is made by a professional who is very quick at painting, because he or she has thousands of hours experience doing it. So yeah, for me that was a really big trap. When I started digital painting, I think I had a decent understanding of perspective thanks to a few months of studying industrial design. So I think I kind of understand the perspective side of things. That's okay. But I still fell into the trap, and I really wanted to do stuff in let's say an hour that usually that a professional would do in 3 hours. So that's totally not gonna work. I'm a person who's learning to paint, so I have to say that I normally have to take, let's say, double the time of the professional. So if the professional says this took me 3 hours, I'd have to say that it would take me at least 6 hours, and even after those 6 hours, it wouldn't nearly as good as the painting from the professional. So that's really what I want, the thing that I want to convey here in this video. So yeah, and what I already talked about is that because those videos, yeah, in let's say in 5 minutes, the entire composition and sort of the building blocks and the design is there in the videos. So in your head, you're like, in 5 minutes, my image has to be clear. But that's not the case. Sometimes it's better to spend like 10 or 30 minutes extra to really think about the design, about the composition. And the detailing comes later. Don't skip to the detailing too quickly. That's really a lesson I need to learn for myself as well. So yeah, if we look at those previous points, yeah, I think we can sort of agree that my my work process is kind of rubbish. So yeah, I'm trying to improve that, and that's something that I want to show you guys. So I'm planning on doing live streams in which I do practice stuff in real time, so you guys can see how long the stuff usually takes. And yeah, we're gonna do all sorts of interesting challenges like default Photoshop brushes and stuff like that, because it's not about the brushes or anything like that. It's all about putting in the hours, studying, putting in more hours, studying a little bit more, and things like that. So I want to really start live streaming again. I have to figure out when and for how long the streams will be and stuff like that, but that will figure itself out over the coming weeks. Hopefully lockdown will be sort of, well, the lockdown will probably not be over here in the Netherlands, but hopefully my daughter can go back to school, so I have some more time to do those live streams. And you can come along with me on that learning to paint journey again, because I really like the journey and I want to share the journey so that you don't get discouraged when you see these beautiful landscape paintings or these beautiful towns or sci-fi paintings and you're like, I want to make those too. Yes, I also want to make them. But if we want to make these paintings, we gotta put in the hours. So I invite you to come along with me on this journey, and hopefully we can learn together and become better painters together. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next video or in one of my live streams. Bye!